I thought about this with just the population who uses IV therapies. I wonder how many are vaccine skeptics.
Oh, totally. And would never go get like a microdose of it's the power of marketing and the power of our perception of what something is that
Yes.
sometimes our critical thinking, like we're not applying the same skepticism to all of these
Right.
different products because of the way they've been presented to us.
Welcome to Influence to Death, your guide for navigating the wild world of wellness influencing. Hi, and welcome to Influence to Death. My name is Victoria Lafont. I am here with guest co-host Amanda Jones. We never talk about like how we're going to intro, so I've just been saying your name. And actually, right as I started to intro, I'm realizing I took. Do you ever take Bioimmunozyme Forte, that immune supplement from?
Yeah, I have at times in my life.
I'll
High
have this in.
dose.
Wait, you've done high dose of
Well,
it?
it's a proteolytic enzymes, right?
Oh no, this is like their immune multi. Uh,
Oh, I'm thinking of Intenzyme Forte.
yeah. Well,
All the
I have
Fortes.
this infection. I'm not going to say where the infection is. I have this infection. And so I've been taking this for immune support. And I just realized I took some and I have only eaten a banana today. And it is one of those supplements where it will just rip your stomach apart. So I might be drinking a little
Are
extra
you okay?
water.
Do we need to pause here and go get
Another banana. I think
another
I'm
banana?
gonna, I can just feel it. I think there's like a little cayenne or something in it, but it's like one of those supplements where for years I would recommend it to some people and I would be like, look me in the eye. No. Lock in. You have to take this with food. And so, of course, this morning, like I didn't follow my own advice. Anyway,
Oh my
welcome to Influence
gosh.
to Death.
It just
So,
gave me a flashback to being in Mexico traveling and thinking I'm going to take a bunch of cayenne to help prevent any parasites. And I went down there and with like these like straight up like super high powered cayenne capsules. And I remember giving them to somebody who came back and was like, whatever you gave me like almost killed me. And I was like, oh, they must have a sensitive gut or something. And then I took it for the first time and went out walking and doubled over thinking I was going to die and
yeah,
ended up like crawling on my hands and knees into a church and laying down in a
praying
pew
for your
for like
soul.
5 hours. I couldn't move and a wedding procession came in and I laid on a bench in this random church in Mexico during this entire wedding ceremony. And I just was like, this is it. I guess this is a good way to go.
They're like this crazy gringo and it's just in the back of the church the whole time. Oh my God. Okay,
Sure.
so this is actually, maybe it is apropos to our episode today is on IV nutrients, IV spas, which is like a huge trend right now. Completely unrelated to this episode, a friend messaged me the other day and asked me what I thought about it because all of his friends are going to get IV nutrients. But one thing that, well, actually, I have gotten IV nutrients before and felt sick as a dog. So it's not just orally that you can get those. It's like a sweating nausea. I remember, do you
Clammy
remember
white. Oh God.
just pukey, which is a little how I feel right now. Dr. Schultz's cleanses. Do you remember that guy? Okay, so we used to buy his cleanse kits, Jameson Simpson and I, he's been on the show, and we would take, he had these like gut pills. There was like Formula 1 and Formula 2. There were like all these different herbal formulas. And I remember we were at Jameson's mom's house for Christmas one year and he took some and he got so sick. He like got down on his hands and his knees in the bathtub and just puked his guts out.
You know, I still have his eye bright solution and I still use it sometimes in eye wash and it has
Yeah.
cayenne in it. And
Yes, it has
talk
cayenne.
about like a solution you better really be paying attention to. Imagine if you ordered that stuff and didn't know
Didn't know.
you
Yeah.
needed to dilute it to like 1 drop per eye wash container. You know, it's like
Yeah.
heavily diluted. What if you just like put that in your eye straight? Can you imagine the
Dude,
holy
so
terror?
they used to call him Dr. Cayenne
Yeah, because he,
because he,
like, saved lives. I've heard that, like, he gave some dude in the parking lot cayenne, and it restarted his heart when he was having a heart attack, or mean, I know the whole stories of, like, shoving cayenne up your yoni if you're hemorrhaging to help
Yeah.
stop
Well, because I
hemorrhage
think it's
'cause
a
it's
it's like a blood clotter, right? It, like,
well,
acutely will help blood clotting, even it hurts, but
I'm curious about that now because I just told 2 kind of opposing stories. One would be ho you know, a blood how would a blood clotter help get you out of a heart attack?
yeah, no.
'Cause I think it's also probably a vasodilator, so I don't yeah, I have no idea what
Don't
the
also,
biochemistry
here's a
is there.
don't do any of the shit that we have talked about. Um, this is why this podcast exists. It's because we've been in this world, this crazy, wacky world of it's like natural medicine. I don't even know what to call it anymore. For so long, we've tried all these crazy things. We've seen both sides, and so now we're trying to come down somewhere in the middle. But okay, so today we are going to talk about IV nutrients. And I will say, so I've had personal experience. I got IV cocktails because I had rosacea for so long and so bad that nobody was diagnosing properly. And so I just thought, well, I have this inflammatory condition. And I would go to this doctor in Northern California and get these cocktails. And I mean, I don't know, did it help? I definitely remember feeling sick at times
Mm,
from taking it, but so there are the same I was gonna say you're gonna sidestep the stomach cramps that we gave ourselves, but possibly not. And there's pros and cons to this. So it is a huge
mhm.
trend right now, but we're just gonna kind of go through the history and then talk about, what we know about IV therapy. I think people are probably familiar with this with the different even there's like mobile units that drive
Mhm.
around.
Mhm.
And did
Yeah,
it
it's a big
kind of
moneymaker now.
so there's like IV nutrients, but also I've heard a lot about like people get like rehydration IV
Mhm.
bags, just like, I
Which is
might,
still, you know, they're putting in electrolytes into those blends, so they're still you know, you have to have electrolytes. So they're still nutrients, but it's not as much of the therapeutic trend of, like, putting NAC or glutathione or whatever, vitamin C
right.
in it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
It
I
was like
think it
to help you with a
really
hangover, right? That's
yes, that's yeah,
one
and
of the,
make you look luscious.
oh,
Um So, I mean, there's a lot to the history, and there you know, there's the Myers cocktails, which is I think is where we maybe should begin.
yeah.
And but of course, like there's the whole long history of medical IV drips that are nutrient IV drips that are
Hmm.
basically about maintaining hydration while you're in a compromised medical situation and being able to deliver medicines as well. But that's where you know, I think we have to give a nod to that. History is really coming from the medical world, and
Yeah.
there was Myers came out using them more as an kind of a non-medical elective nutritional therapy, and
Hmm.
then I think it's also helpful to tie this all into the concept of molecular medicine in
Yeah.
general. So maybe I'll just start with that idea of what orthomolecular medicine is. It's kind of this idea that health can be optimized by providing the body with the right molecules, right nutrients, orthomolecular,
Hmm.
the right molecules in high doses. So not just getting to that sufficiency level where you're going to prevent overt diseases, but like just flooding the body with with nutrients. And so this
Hmm.
idea really started to take hold in really in the medical world back in the 1950s and 70s where they started figuring out okay there's some conditions that seem to respond from really high dose nutrient therapy like high dose niacin for schizophrenia was one of the early ones that
Mm,
they
interesting.
discovered that could help some patients and then uh, you know as this was all developing Linus Pauling, so if anybody has been
Uh-huh.
in the world of nutrition you would recognize the name Linus Pauling from the Linus Pauling Institute, which is a kind of a branch of
It's
the
OSU, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Oregon
Oregon
State.
State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Linus Pauling Institute has a really fantastic evidence-based online resource that is kind of a library of what we know about the therapeutic use of different micronutrients and macronutrients. And Linus Pauling definitely himself, he coined the term orthomolecular, and he was a proponent of megadosing certain vitamins like vitamin C for specific chronic conditions and diseases. So he really kind of started in a way. I feel like he is the grandfather of kind of
Orthomolecular.
modern nutrition and supplementation. You
And
know,
like, have you read about him a little bit? Like, he was like a little kooky. I mean, he was brilliant, but like they say that like when I've read about his bio, because I'm like, who was this guy? He was just like extremely compelling to people and gregarious, and he was a good talker. And so he would go out there and like talk about vitamin C and these different nutrients in a way, and people were like the vitamin C, like cancer connection was a big one. God bless you. That was good.
so close. I
You
almost
really
got
kept
it.
that off mic. That sneeze. There's like there's we're gonna get into like the accuracy of all of this, but um he really put these connections together, particularly with vitamin C, I think, in cancer. And there's questions about, it's like, is it effective in like preventing or even treating cancer? But a lot of people believed it at that time just because he was such a compelling speaker and personality.
That's like the history of so many of these threads. There is some sort of like charismatic personality or leader that kind of gets it finally to launch into the public psyche. I feel like to some
Apropos.
degree. So, okay, so that really is where we would trace the roots of IV nutrient therapy, and now it's just kind of expanded. So then let's see, when was Myers around? So Myers came a little bit later. Dr. Myers, Baltimore physician who used IV vitamins and minerals to manage chronic conditions. This guy, John Myers, I think he was practicing in the like 60s, 70s.
Here, let me look.
I know he died in 1984, but he was really kind of one of the first people, I think, to put this into regular clinical practice. And he developed this formula called the Myers cocktail. That was a combination of, let's see, what are the nutrients? I know it's vitamin
Girl,
C,
in the
magnesium.
1950s, he created the Myers cocktail.
Okay. So there you go. Right
Wow.
alongside Linus Pauling.
Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, I just wanted to put that in. That's very neat. The Merck Manuals website has a write up on him.
Do you have on hand what is in it? I know it's like magnesium, calcium. Did they remove the B vitamin? No, there's still B12, right?
It's
And
high
vitamin
doses
C.
of B vitamins, vitamin C, and minerals, magnesium and calcium mixed with sterile water. And
And
he
then I
oh
know.
he developed and administered, this is on Merck, the first IV treatments in the 1970s. Sorry, so I guess he like what I was looking at is he got through maybe like medical school. It's interesting. Actually, these two sites have two different um dates on it. This one says 1954 and this other one says in the 1970s. I think I'm going to go with Merck as the site that might be more accurate. Yeah, this one site says 1954 and then on Merck's site it says in the 1970s, but
Okay, so these used to be just like mixed up into some sterile water, pulled into a syringe, and then like slowly give a slow
slow
push.
drip. Yeah.
And the I think from what I have been exposed to in my life, kind of as a practitioner and in practitioner networks, a lot of people added glutathione to that mix. And I don't know if that was even available back then, probably not. And now there's also NAC that is a
Right.
really common
Which is a
add-on.
precursor to glutathione, right? I mean, that's the reason why it's added.
Or actually, I should have said not NAC, NAD. Um,
Oh,
what is it?
Amanda,
Nucleotinamide adenine di.
it's an electron chain transporting molecule is
Yes,
what it
thank
is.
you.
Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. So it's a B3 is a cofactor to create NAD. And
Yeah.
yeah, it essentially just brings brings electrons through the electron transport chain. It's the
Yeah.
reason why we want it. That's interesting.
So,
Okay, I didn't even know that they're adding NAD to these IV drips, which is also like
mhm.
such a popular supplement right now. The last time we were at my mother-in-law's house, I think she's taking it. And I mean, she's interested like in health, but she was like, "Hey, have
Yeah.
you heard of NAD?" And I was like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
so it's a big one.
yeah. Yeah, big one.
Okay, but that I don't think NAD and glutathione came until quite a lot
Later.
later, and
Yeah.
so when John Myers passed away in 1984, he had thousands of patients with chronic illnesses that were taking these cocktails, and they were like, I need these solutions in order to manage this chronic condition. So they were basically dependent on it, and they sought out Alan Gaby,
Alan
who
Gaby, yeah.
is, another titan in the world of nutritional medicine. He wrote the textbook Nutritional Medicine that Victoria gave herself carpal tunnel syndrome carrying
Tendinitis.
around.
Actually, it's such a big book. Yeah, there's a couple. I just have to give these stories. Yeah, I would reach in the back and get it out of the back seat because anytime I had like 10 minutes, I would read it when I was in grad school. And then when you travel with it, it's such a thick book that TSA makes you take it out of your bag because they can't see through the density. They
Right.
like leaf through it. Um, and when I called to get nutritional medicine, did you call the number to order it when you were in school?
No, I just did it through email.
Okay. So they like gave us this number and they're like, if you call this number, you can order it and we got like a certain percent off
Yeah.
because when I called, Alan Gaby answered the phone
Yeah.
and he was
He
like, hi,
responded to
Dr.
my
Gaby.
email.
And
Yeah.
I was like, what? And I was like, you're Alan Gaby. And then he goes, yeah, who else would answer my phone? And I was like, yeah, but aren't like 10,000 students calling you? He answered the phone, which I guess for people who don't know who Alan Gaby is, it's like Amanda said, he's like a titan in our world, like, and especially I think for the way that we think, he's like really done his due diligence to bring together research to show like this is actually what we know from
Mhm.
research. And then in his book, this huge book that we're talking about, he pairs it with like this is what I've seen anecdotally, like what I've seen in the office. And you can see him like he like presents that friction between the research and what we know or even what's popular. It's like he really is a thinker. He's trying to like think this out. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah,
Dr.
so
Baby.
we drew on his book to kind of get some of the history together for this episode. So he's talking directly about the fact that when Myers passed away,
Yeah.
um, hundreds, if not thousands, of his clients were seeking somebody who could formulate and administer these IV drips, the Myers cocktails. And so a lot of them came to Gaby, and Gaby
Mhm.
researched the formula. He has an in-depth discussion in his book about all of the different nutrient forms, like different chelates, different forms of synthetic nutrients, how they interact with each other,
Big
what he
one.
learned about the
Yeah.
mixture, right? And so he kind of refined the formula over time. And he says in his book that he has administered, at least 15,000 treatments. And through that has observed clinical benefits in a wide range of chronic health conditions, migraine, asthma, fibromyalgia being a major one, chronic
Mhm.
fatigue, infections, allergies, and more, and just like a general state of well-being. So this is one of those areas where if you look up, Myers cocktails on Wikipedia, you will see that it has a lot of critics in the evidence-based world saying this is not backed by strong empirical research data. But
Mhm.
you look at somebody like
It's
Alan Gaby, and this dude is not a quack. He is really trying to take a rigorous evidence-based approach to nutrition. And you see that in his work clearly. It's like
Mhm.
the references in every nutrient article, the discussion of contraindications, nutrient interactions, cautions. Like the dude is not just out there saying whatever he wants to
Willy-nilly. Yeah,
say. Yeah,
no.
he's a real nutrition science researcher. So for him to say, I've done this, I've treated literally tens of thousands of people, and I see real clinical improvements, is that's an important form of evidence
Yeah.
to pay attention to. So I wanted to read this little part, a clip that I found interesting from his book. And then he's talking about kind of this part of his discussion on rationale, like why would this be helpful for these patients? So it says, it's been my observation that some patients who receive a series of IV injections become progressively healthier. In these patients, the interval between treatments can be gradually increased, so less frequent, and eventually the injections are no longer necessary. Other patients need to receive regular injections for an indefinite period of time in order to control their medical problems. This dependence on IV injections could conceivably result from any of the following: a genetically determined impairment in the capacity to maintain normal intracellular nutrient concentrations, an inborn error of metabolism that can be controlled only by maintaining a higher than normal concentration of a particular nutrient, or a renal leak of a nutrient. In some cases, continued IV therapy may be necessary because the disease is too adverse to be reversed,
Yeah.
too advanced to be reversed. So I thought that was an interesting discussion of who he views this as being for, rather than just
Yeah.
a kind of a general wellness trend, right? There's like an actual, he is approaching it as actual kind of medical therapy.
Yeah. And I mean, look, when I was getting it, even this is probably 10 or 15 years ago, mostly the people that went out to get IV therapy from this doctor in Nevada County were cancer patients.
Mhm.
That's who, I mean, that's really who she saw. I was just this like biohacking, young freak with a little bit of cash and a rash,
Yeah.
you know? So there were not many people out there like that. And they're like, I think the like hangover IV labs were a thing, but it had
Mhm.
not gotten to like the level where it's at now where, you can just go get a bag of nutrients put into you. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
so some of the kind of basic pro IV nutrient therapy claims that I think that I kind of gathered and think are deserving of consideration would be like when an oral supplement enters the digestive system, um, a significant that's always going to be a controlled process of absorption, and
hmm
in a lot of cases I think that 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 control mechanism should be respected. Like, okay, yes, you're only going to observe a certain amount, and that's a good thing. That's your
right.
body regulating its own homeostasis. We're not like, it doesn't mean like, oh hey, we can just like stick it in your vein and bypass your control mechanisms. That's not necessarily what we want. But there are some people that are going to have issues, pathological issues that are going to disrupt their ability to absorb those nutrients. So they may actually
Mhm.
be really struggling with absorption, not because it's the body regulating itself, but because there's something broken, or so something going wrong in the digestive tract. And so they're having a hard time getting that nutrient into the bloodstream. Um, the other, when you say cancer patients, there's an argument, I think, of in some situations, people can have abnormally high levels of oxidative stress. Like when somebody is
Totally.
experiencing chemotherapy and radiation, and they're that's not a natural state to begin with, right? And so
Mhm.
trying to counteract this unnaturally elevated state of oxidative stress, that might be a good rationale as well. Gaby in his book goes into this, the observation that the biochemistry of these nutrients changes at certain concentrations, and that there may be therapeutic effects that you can get if you can get concentrations up to these supraphysiological levels, where you
Mhm.
are actually bypassing the body's natural homeostatic set point and regulatory systems. But as you do that, you start to exert effects that you couldn't get to otherwise. Like he talks about this a lot with vitamin C, where if you get vitamin C increased in the serum levels, um, above the levels that you could do through the gastrointestinal tract, because you would get diarrhea, vitamin C diarrhea, and you'd be,
And
excreting
people
it too
should know
quickly.
that. That's it's called, there's a term for it. It's like to do you know what I'm talking about? It's like to
Oral
tolerance.
tolerance, yeah.
Yeah, but what that means
Oh,
is
bowel
you
tolerance. Sorry, bowel tolerance. Yeah.
yeah, you take vitamin C until you just get, like, raging diarrhea. That's bowel tolerance.
Yeah.
You should try to
So
not ever
even
get there.
even at that level, you still can't get serum levels to the high to the concentration that you can get it through an IV dose. So
Mhm.
I think it's kind of like, well, that there may be a good reason not to do that consistently or constantly, but
Yeah.
his argument is that there may be some medical conditions where getting it up there is relatively safe, and then it is going to exert, physiological effects that you wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. So antiviral effects. He also talks about how if it gets high enough, it can break down histamine, which may be part of why it helps some people with these kind of chronic allergic issues. So that's another, I think, compelling use case that again is not just like a wellness thing. It's tied to a really serious kind of pharmacological
Right.
assessment of what's going on there.
It's using nutrients as drugs. I mean, that's
Exactly.
what we're talking about with
Exactly.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's serious. It should be taken seriously, not just as a spa day thing. Um, So, and then there's other stuff too. Again, going back to the idea that, a lot of these nutrient IV drips, that they do come from the medical world. And
Mhm.
my experience with IV nutrient drips came from my experience with preeclampsia. So, in my,
Uh-huh.
the end of my third trimester, I started to have skyrocketing blood pressure. And the way that they treat that when you go into the hospital with preeclampsia, which is incredibly lethal. I mean, it's still the number one maternal killer worldwide. And your pressure system, there's some they don't fully understand it, but as things
No.
go off with the placenta, and your cardiovascular system, its ability to regulate blood flow, goes absolutely berserk, and your blood pressure goes through the roof, and it can send you into seizures and give you all kinds of bad problems, kill you. So thankfully, they have several different, medications they can throw at you. But for me, I had severe preeclampsia, and all of the IV antihypertensive medications in the toolkit weren't enough to manage it. And so what they do in those cases is they give you IV magnesium. And it's basically, I think it's magnesium sulfate I think is the form. I'm not sure.
How did that
Actually,
make
don't
you
listen to
feel,
me
Amanda?
about that.
Because when you told me,
Oh
I was like,
my
"Wow, that
God.
sounds amazing." And you were like, "No,
Well, that's
no."
what my OB was like, "We're gonna really try to keep you off the magnesium." And I was like, "Oh, girl, I love magnesium. I take magnesium. I take Epsom salt baths. You can give me some magnesium all day long."
He's like,
I had
"Bitch, listen to
no
me right
idea.
now."
Oh my God. I mean, when it hit, it was like, just like, it was psychedelic, horrible, extremely sedating. I felt like they won't let you, you have to be on a urinary catheter, um, because you can't stand up. You're so sedated. I
Oh
mean,
my god.
imagine trying to have a vaginal delivery in that state. It sucked. It was
Right, and it
brutal.
and something
But
maybe people also don't realize is when you are that preeclamptic, a C-section it's extremely risky. So
yeah.
you gave birth
Yeah,
vaginally.
imagine bleeding. Imagine having a hemorrhage when your blood pressure is that high. It's just
Right.
extremely dangerous situation. So anyway, I got IV magnesium that way for days, and it
Oh
was
my god,
hellish,
Amanda.
but it saved my life. But so anyway, that's another example of a real medical use case for
Mhm.
but had I not known more about like the fact that this is really serious, we were just talking about how if you go out and get potassium in a supplement form and you look at the label, it's like 3% of your
Very
recommended
low.
daily intake is all that you can get over the counter. Because if you took too much potassium, it will shift the relationship between other electrolytes like potassium and
And
sodium,
magnesium
potassium and
magnesium.
magnesium, and those electrolyte relationships are incredibly they are the bottom line in terms of whether your neurons continue to fire, your
Your
heart
heartbeat.
continues to
Yeah.
beat. Like, these are the things that are like setting off these cellular reactions and transporting things in and out of cells, and they are so fundamental to our physiology that
Mhm.
you would have to, if you had a supplement where you had like a 50% of your daily
Oh
allotted,
my god, well, it would
potassium,
kill you. Yeah.
and you accidentally took, a couple too many, you could kill yourself. So yeah,
Mhm.
So I didn't think of that, the importance of really knowing, like, what am I what electrolytes are going in at what levels, and
Mhm.
is it safe? My mother recently had a episode that she thinks was to do with she had she's kind of predisposed to arrhythmias, but
Yeah.
she was taking this new electrolyte supplement,
Mhm.
and it was very high in sodium and low in potassium, and she was
Mhm.
taking too much of it, and it went into, tachycardia and had to go
Mhm.
through the whole crazy ER
Oh
experience, and
god.
they were like, your sodium potassium levels are completely off, and that can send you into."
Not to mention the impact on kidneys. I mean, this is a whole other episode, but it is a completely whole other sub I'm gonna say it though. These extremely high sodium electrolytes,
Yeah, it's a
and there are a
problem.
few out there right now. I understand that some people need them. Like, there are certain people. It shouldn't be the only intervention for, like, POTS or, people who have,
Yeah.
like, but
Ketogenic diets, sweating a ton, laborers working in hot climates, there's people,
But most people, it is a stressor on your kidneys.
and
You
your
will
gut,
see
your
your kidneys. Yes.
microbiome, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's evidence
And
that it
also your acid
increases
alkaline balance in your body, like, we don't need that much sodium.
TH17 activity, not great for autoimmune conditions. Yeah,
Right, okay,
there's a
so,
lot of
an interleukin, just so people understand, that is an inflammatory immune protein that, yeah, for people with autoimmune conditions specifically, you don't want to increase it's IL-17?
TH17, those are our adaptive,
Gotcha.
a subtype of adaptive T cell that is linked with autoimmune tissue destruction, basically.
Okay, so I was wrong, it wasn't an interleukin, it's
But
a
similar. I forget if TH17s do produce IL-17 or not, though. They
whoa, we would have
Anyway,
to immunologists tell us that,
or
but yeah, to your
IL-16, I forget which
point,
one. Yeah.
extremely, like, subtle shifts in electrolytes. I mean, I've taken liquid minerals before and had, heart palpitations,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, not
Yeah.
many, just, like, a little bit. So, some people are more sensitive than others, but generally, it's like we need to be aware of that balance. It's not like a something you can't just, like, play around with it.
Yes. Okay, so that's a little bit about the history and kinda what it is. Um, should we
Oh, I
talk a
also
little
just
bit?
wanted to mention there's a brand of supplements called orthomolecular. We're not
Uh-huh.
talking about that. That's like,
Uh-huh.
a brand of that you can buy. This is like kind of a branch of integrative medicine called orthomolecular medicine that company drew its name from, is my guess. So just so that people know that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Clarifying that. Um, so I mean, clearly there are real places where where some version of IV nutrient therapy is incredibly helpful and important. Um,
I mean, would you get it? Like, what do you think about it? Just generally, personally.
so we're gonna go there in a minute. I
Okay.
personally don't feel like I have the need for it at this time. I feel like my hydration status is good. I don't drink alcohol, so I'm not dealing with hangovers.
Your skin looks shiny. Nice.
Um, let's talk a little bit about the influencers and kind of how this therapeutic idea has been kind of captured by not just
Mhm.
the wellness industry, but also just the aesthetics kind of med spa industry,
Yeah.
and where some of the problems might arise with like influencers. Because this is just so hot right now. There's a lot of just like, celebrities with huge megaphones that are promoting these without any of the caveats or any of the cautions. So, Kardashians, like, just to name a few of mega celebrities who have been out there publicly promoting or sharing, like, "Hey, look at me! I'm having an IV drip right now."
Mhm.
Kardashians, Adele, Justin and Hailey Bieber, uh, Jenner, what is it? The Kendall Jenner,
Kendall
I guess
Jenner.
she's part of the
She's
Kardashians, right?
Kardashian clan, yeah.
Rihanna,
Maria
Katy Perry did it. Katy Perry hooked up Lionel Richie onto an vitamin IV live on American Idol, which was this like huge viral moment. She was like, "You won't take the vitamins I've been telling you need to take, so we're gonna just do it on stage," right? So like literally, that was a
Oh wait, Luke
huge.
Bryan makes Luke Bryan take his first ever IV.
Luke Bryan. Okay, I thought it was.
Lionel Richie.
Oh yeah.
Lionel Richie is like a singer, an old school singer, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I thought that was who it was on the one of the judges. It's like she was a judge and it was one of the co-judges that so
Dude,
they're like
so
on stage doing an IV nutrient drip.
this
Talk
is
about
so
taking it casually, it's incredible.
it says in the byline of the article, this is like, an article in People magazine. He asked her, "Is that urine in there?" Because which is perfect actually from our last podcast on urine therapy. I'm sure some people would be totally into that. But no,
Yeah.
it has like a yellow color. The bags do sometimes, just to explain that to people.
Yeah. So then there now Gwyneth Paltrow, I don't know, do you pay attention to Goop
Oh,
much at all?
obsessed with I love Gwyneth Paltrow actually. I mean, I think from like a if for one hat of me, I'm like, holy shit, this woman like did leeches and
Uh-huh.
sells lip gloss for $35. Like how what?
She's
I also happen to love The Royal Tenenbaums is a movie that Wes Anderson directed that Gwyneth Paltrow was in, and I love that movie. So I have like a soft spot for her. But yeah, it's from one part of me, I'm obsessed with her. The other part of me is like she is an absolute kook. But she was one of kind of the first early adopters of I think actually she did a podcast with another woman and they were both hooked up to IV vitamin drips during the podcast, like a Katy Perry moment.
uh-huh.
While they're talking about like bone broth and, like all their
All their wellness hacks.
$1 million wellness hacks. Yeah, totally.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, so I agree. I like Gwyneth to I think it's hard to these things just get taken and put into. It's one thing to feel like this person is just like out there innocently kind of doing their thing in public and then looking at kind of the ripple effects of that and where that can go. Sometimes it's not always an intentional line that you can draw between the two.
Hmm.
Um, So I'm sure that there's some harms that have come out of some of her content,
Oh,
but
also just
I
spending tons of money on like
yeah,
Vaseline.
yeah,
She's just like a
she's a business tycoon.
totally.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
she's been
And she
very
has, like, the
successful.
face and the vibe, and she just, like, runs with
Mhm.
it, and
The
yeah.
jeans, both
Yeah.
the G and the J kinda jeans.
That's a whole
Um
other episode.
So
Um,
yeah, if you go on Instagram and look up IV, hydration, drip hydration, IV bar, IV, all these different terms,
it's huge.
then it's huge, and you can kind of get a sense for the bandwagon that everybody's jumping on. There's this one I thought was a good there's so many. Oh my God, there's so many
The
cringeable
drip
ones.
gym, that is crazy. I've never heard of that one before. Drip Gym in NYC. I'm gonna follow them right now.
So there's one this is a caption or whatever. IV is the real anti-aging secret. Boost energy, repaired cells, had me glowing like I just turned back time. Tag someone who loves wellness that actually works. And then it says what actually makes it work. NAD is a coenzyme derived from vitamin B3. This is the star molecule that boosts mitochondrial energy, repairs DNA, and supports anti-aging and mental clarity. There's so much to covet in that. Um,
Yeah.
it's just interesting. This is one of those spaces where you really get to see how the wellness industry, they're generally selling something that's highly profitable, but they have to craft these claims. And look, I have done this in my own right, trying to skirt the potential of practicing medicine without a license. I think there are some times where it's like, I do want to say that this can be helpful because I really believe it can, and yet I don't want to like make a medical claim. So there's all this effort to say things like boost immunity or support detox language that's kind of crafted in a way that insinuates the therapeutic effects without necessarily claiming to treat any disease.
Mm-hmm.
And so it creates this impression that the IV drip is, know that it's a fact that we know that it can treat a serious condition. And this came up during COVID with so many different supplements and IV drips, where some people got flagged by the FDA and FTC, where they're like, basically, you are convincing people that this is a medical treatment
Mm-hmm.
because, well, some people were just directly saying like it could help you fight COVID. It's this real gray zone, and the whole strategy of a lot of these businesses is to exploit that gray zone, where you can craft these claims that are strong enough to sound really scientific and convincing, and they can influence, consumer beliefs about what these treatments are doing, while at the same time they're like just vague and weak enough to evade the regulations from the FTC and FTC, which, while
Yeah.
sometimes can be annoying, are actually there to keep consumers safe, because without those regulations, we would be in the wild, wild west of
Well, and
incredibly dangerous stuff
the
on the
thing
market.
is we kind of are. I mean, there's this
Yeah.
like, there's a gap, right? Where,
Yeah.
and I don't know how
With the
to,
supplements.
yeah, to fix this so I had a supplement company. I had a protein powder business. We had to actually call the FDA. You can just call them and talk to like a nice person will answer the phone to ask them about the labeling. And we
Mhm.
would go to a commercial kitchen and create that protein powder and package it the way that we were advised to package it and then sell it. But we didn't have to do any of that. And the only way that anyone would be the wiser is if somebody got sick and then they investigated us, right? Same with
Huh.
our website. We could say initially whatever we wanted to say, but until they find you, it is the Wild West. But
Yeah,
it's
until
this like,
somebody drinks the bleach or whatever it is,
and
yeah.
then they go after you. But
Mhm,
there's this like, in my mind, this is one of those areas where it's like, for copywriting, for health copywriting, we have to get trained through. There's like FTC guidelines that we have to follow and DSHEA guidelines that we have to follow. You cannot make medical claims, but it
mhm,
is an extremely gray area. Like we have clients that are comfortable with us saying some things. We have other clients that they do not want us to say, certain
mhm,
words or make certain claims. But the weird part is like I don't feel like the FDA holds itself to those same standards.
mhm,
It's like there are ways where drugs which have gone through clinical trials, hopefully, right? It's like they're not curing anything either. Now, they're taking care of you in a way, and this is totally my opinion. They're taking care of you in a way where hopefully you have a better quality of life, but they're not imparting health most of the
mhm,
time. Not all of the time, but most of the time. But then on the other side of that, it's like you have these absolute quacks, like people who, this is, a little off topic from the IV vitamin therapy, but the way that it's marketed is what you're speaking to. People who create supplements that are a complete trash. And most supplements out there the majority are. And as long as they kind of like word it the right way and they market it the right way, they sell enough to become millionaires. So it is a
yeah,
weird world with all of that. And it's hard to know what is what unless you're extremely educated about it and you pay really close attention.
yeah, and I think that the reason I brought it up is just that I think that the IV nature of this, having come from the medical world, it's one of those areas where it's really gets interesting, because it is
Yeah.
so adjacent to medical therapies and comes from the world of medical therapies, that there's this kind of assumption of like, yeah, it just really blurs the line
More so,
between,
yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
um,
And there's a higher risk. I mean, I say that though, it's like there are risks in taking supplements that you don't know the backstory of
mhm,
for sure. You're
mhm,
taking whatever sawdust, metal, toxic, plastic filled shit from China for real. People don't
mhm,
realize that when you order, I think this is important. I know it's not IV, but this is important. When you take a supplement that you don't know anything about, you haven't talked to people at the company, you haven't seen a certificate of analysis, you're not sure, you ordered off the internet, you ordered off Amazon, you could be taking anything. There
Mhm.
is extremely small amount of regulation on that. But then, yeah, kind of what you're saying, Amanda, it's like now it's in an IV bag and you're
Mhm.
injecting it directly into your bloodstream.
I think that's one of the biggest pieces that I came away with is the
Yeah.
importance um, of trust, recognizing the degree of trust that you're investing in whoever formulated that
Mhm.
fluid, how it's been stored,
Stored.
you
Yeah.
know, who is who is, managing the quality control, where is it coming from, and then
Mhm.
who is giving it to you, and have they gone what is in it, and have they gone through an appropriate medical screening to know that you're not taking a medication that could be, contraindicated and have weird effects. So we could
Yeah.
go through. I have a list of some of the kind of concerns that
Mhm.
are more of like, just additional reasons to be caution around IV therapy. So, one is yeah, sorry, did
Have
you want
you
to jump
thought
in?
though that's I've thought about this with just the population who uses IV therapies, I wonder how many are vaccine skeptics?
Oh, totally. And would never go get like a microdose of
And look,
there's so many,
I'm a
yeah,
vaccine
there's
skeptic in many ways. Like, so, I'm not saying that it's like those people. It's like I have some questions about vaccinations, but I also have some questions
totally,
about IV therapy. I got some
totally.
questions across the board because at the end of the day, it is a business, all of it. The IV therapy guy is making money, the vaccine guy is making money, everybody's making money, and you're the one who's having whatever it is put into your vein. There's
Right.
questions everywhere.
It's pointing to it's the power of marketing and the power of our perception of what something is, that
Yes.
sometimes our critical thinking, like we're not applying the same skepticism to all of these
Right.
different products because of the way they've been presented to us.
That is, Amanda, like the basis, I think, of everything that we discuss is that skepticism needs to be applied to your darling beliefs, just like it needs to be applied to the things that
Mhm.
you're unsure of. Anyway, I'll shut up and let you go. Sorry.
Well,
You've
just,
got a lot to cover.
there's a long list of stuff to be aware of. So, one is that there's very little data from like randomized clinical controlled trials for a lot of these
Mhm.
things, which is why the evidence based world does consider them kind of quackery. There is a huge potential for placebo or halo effect here, which makes it more difficult to know, what the actual physiological benefit is. So if you're paying good money, you're in this like lovely spa environment, you're sitting down and resting for an hour, you're
Getting
believing
hydrated.
yes, you're getting
Yeah.
hydrated. The hydration can be a temporary boost, but you don't necessarily need to put yourself through these other risks to get hydrated through IV.
Just
There
do
are
an
other ways to
enema.
get hydrated.
I mean, that works
um,
the fastest.
yeah. There's real concerns around what you're saying, like ingredients, purity, potential contaminants, heavy
Mhm.
metals, back to like sterility issues. Was it handled appropriately? Because you can get very small amounts of endotoxins injected into the bloodstream can be very problematic.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's the issue of opportunity cost. Are you spending $200 on one of these things and then not doing other basic self-care stuff
Right.
because that resource is being, allocated to IV therapy rather than something else that you need, like sleeping more or
A
getting a gym
massage.
membership or a massage or
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
going to see a loved one or whatever.
Yeah.
There is issues around like the first pass metabolism. So going back to this idea that
Mhm.
your body is this incredibly fine-tuned, intelligent system for regulating all of your nutrient status and not just nutrients but also potential toxin exposure. So when
Mhm.
you consume um, any substance through the oral route, first of all you have this selective barrier that can help select what the body wants in the bloodstream versus is going to keep in the lumen of the digestive tract and poop out. And so we're bypassing that initial barrier, which is an essential barrier. But then once you absorb food from the intestine into your bloodstream, a lot of that blood will be kind of lifted off of the gut and the capillary beds surrounding the gut and sent through like the spleen and straight to the liver, so that the organs that are responsible for kind of immune surveillance and
Mhm.
biochemical transformations, they get the first look. They get the first pass. It's called first pass metabolism. And that gives the liver the opportunity to neutralize toxins that may be coming in that could be damaging to the brain or heart or kidneys or whatever. The liver has the capacity to deal with those things in ways that the rest of the system doesn't.
Mhm.
And then also just nutrients, like I want this nutrient to be changed into this other form, or whatever it is. The liver, um, the liver does a really important job of kind of gatekeeping before everything gets sent out into broader circulation. So we're bypassing that. And I think same with
That's a
electrolytes.
huge
So
one. It's huge.
it's big. Yeah, so you've got so much less control about, you really are in a way deciding, "Hey, I'm gonna outsmart my body."
Which is impossible. I mean, you gotta be pretty sure that it's a situation where you want that to happen, and I think that kinda goes back to, like, this has been used for medical purposes, like, when people are
Exactly.
sick, okay, the risk is less than the benefit, but if you're not sick.
Exactly. There's all sorts of nutrient interactions that can be problematic. It's like we said, heart arrhythmias with the electrolytes can really cause problem
Yeah.
if they're getting tinkered with on this level. You can
Where
get
people see that in real life, it's like if you have ever run a marathon or if you've worked outside and you have, like, sweat too much, it's not just dehydration, you have electrolyte imbalances from those
Mhm,
efforts, and people yeah, it can be deadly, but it's
mhm.
also, like, you get disoriented, heart arrhythmias, muscle weakness, cramping, like, all those symptoms. That's if people have ever experienced that in a small way, this is like the possibility of that is even bigger in this scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the issue too with antioxidant overdosing. This is another one of those, like, we're gonna outsmart the body. And,
Mhm.
there's, I think, certain situations where you're under extreme oxidative stress where dumping a mother load of antioxidants into your system can be protective. But if that is like an ongoing thing and then the attitude is just like antioxidant, we all associate that with being a good thing. So more is always going to be better. And that's not actually the case, because antioxidants are, they're not just negative byproducts of metabolism or toxic exposure. They have real important signaling purposes in the
Oxidants, you
body.
mean, are
Oxidants,
oxidatives, yeah,
sorry, yeah, oxidants do.
yeah.
So, they help us manage like our uh, adaptation to stressors. They're
Mhm.
part of that
It's big,
hormetic stress
yes.
signaling process where the body is saying, "Okay, I've been broken down over here, I've been stressed over here, let's rebuild. Let's increase our own antioxidant production. Let's increase our own repair mechanisms." And so if we're constantly blunting that oxidative signaling from external sources, then we're kind of
Mhm.
getting in the way of the body being able to have its own hormetic adaptation to stress. Um, so, I don't know that
It's
we know that
huge.
much about this yet. I mean, yeah, I'm
Well,
curious
I
your
mean, so
thoughts.
people get an idea, like, when you have a serious athlete, this is what, Amanda, you're discussing is, like, why exercise works, or one of the main mechanisms of how exercise works. It's a stressor on the body, your body responds to that stress in a positive way, and you adapt and you get stronger. I mean, that's it. So when if you have a serious athlete, there are, like, I mean, serious, right? Where, like, a second is gonna determine, like, you
Right.
get the podium or you don't. You don't even feed them antioxidant rich foods after they train. Like, you would not give them blueberries after a hard training session. You would
Wow.
wait, right? Because you want that adaptation to happen and you don't want to blunt that response.
Hmm.
And it's a fascinating area of physiology.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
I think
we
it's one
don't
that
really
really
know what happens.
I don't
with
think it's
IV.
made it out of the research and academic zones and really high level
Mhm.
performance nutrition yet. I feel like the most of the world is still really just like antioxidant equals good. Let's get more. And
Yeah, and it's not
there's
true.
at a
It's
certain
because
level,
you
there's
have
something
your
to that. But
own antioxidant system.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton of interactions that could happen. So, I don't need to go through the list of all the different like crazy drug interactions that can
I don't know, I
happen
think
and
maybe we should. This
risks.
would be a good opener for the the whole podcast. I mean, this is a huge list with
Okay,
different
so
drugs.
yeah, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, so this is just God for people to be aware of. I'm just thinking about my friend texting me, like, "Hey, what do you think about IV therapy?" And me being like, I was just like, drink orange juice and get some broth. Like that's the foods that you should add to your diet. But I'm like, I don't even know if he's on medication, right? I didn't even think about that. So the drug interactions can be with antihypertensive, it's diuretics, digoxin. I don't even know how to pronounce that.
I don't know that.
Anticoagulants, certain antibiotics, immunotherapy, or chemotherapy is a huge one. You have to be careful with antioxidant, just supplements with people on
Yeah,
chemo.
because they
And
need
then
they're supposed to be, getting that oxidative stress. So you got to wait
right, the oxidative stress
until.
is part of the medicine. And then there's these conditions that people need to be aware of if they're getting IV nutrients. Kidney disease, heart failure, hypertension that's uncontrolled. Hemochromatosis is huge. And actually, I think it was either Gaby at some point reading about hemochromatosis. It is a genetic iron overload, is what hemochromatosis is. Um, Many
So,
people have that and they do not know they have hemochromatosis.
and would one
Um,
of the key issues there being that if you have really high iron levels and then you dump a bunch of vitamin C in there, that would be a very oxidative combo?
Bad, yeah, very
I don't
bad.
know. Yeah, okay.
Oxalate stone, so the certain type of kidney stone, oxalate stones if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, severe anemia, eating disorders or refeeding risk, and then G6PD deficiency, which is that the metabolic enzyme in between glycolysis and the Krebs cycle? Is that what that is?
Oh, I don't
Um,
know. I don't know that one.
I mean, we should check that out. G6PD deficiency. I'm thinking of
Yeah, you're right.
pyruvate dehydrogenase, that
Mhm.
enzyme family in between the breakdown of glucose and the Krebs cycle. Um, we're going to have to Google that one. That was just my best guess based on the
It can
name here.
result in hemolytic anemia. Yes, it is it's a inherited disorder where the body lacks enough of the enzyme glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase, which is crucial for keeping red blood cells stable. So your red blood
So
cells
it's
start to
anemia.
fall out.
Yeah. So if people have those, are taking those drugs or have those underlying conditions, they just need to be aware of that if they're going to get hooked up to their local mobile IV spa before they do it. Um, okay, and there's these other contraindications that you have listed that
Or just allergic risks, infectious and sepsis risks. If the technique is poor, or protocols in the Medi Spa lapse, then you can get infection through the IV. And IV is really opening your body up to infection if it's not done well.
yeah, phlebitis, just
Phlebitis, yeah. So
vein damage.
inflammation, vein damage, yeah, air embolism, line errors. So all of this to say, like, this is a medical device, and it's just,
Right.
again, like people, in short, the people administering your IVs need to know what they're doing. It is
Yeah.
not just like a off the cuff cutesy kind of thing. And then
Yay. Yeah.
one of the other pieces there is microplastics. So this
This is
one,
crazy. Okay, this is what started the whole episode is you were like, what about the
finally getting there.
microplastics in IVs? And I was like, come again? I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah. And it makes, honestly, I bet that if you just tasted saline solution out of an IV bag, it would taste like nasty plastic water that you would never want to drink. That's just my guess.
So
Like
have you
water
ever
that's been sitting
used
in a plastic bottle.
the camelbacks when you go hiking?
Yes.
They're filthy. I hate them.
Can't do it. Can't
Andrew
do
did
it.
it for years when we first met. He has a couple of them, and I remember I would get a drink of his water and just be like, "Gross, it tastes like plastic so bad." It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, is it a more stable plastic that they're using in IV bags, the tubing?
I think it all leaches a lot, a lot. So, they can shed. So there is research on this. IV bags, tubing, can shed microplastic and plasticizers, phthalates, PVCs, all sorts of nasty chemicals. So they can shed like the fluid's going to be filled with actual plastic chemicals as well as micro and even worse nanoplastics that are like really 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 small. So what is it? I forget like what the particle size is. If it's under 1 nanometers, it's called a nanoplastic,
I
but
don't
those
know.
are they think are even more dangerous because they're going to have an easier time passing all of our different protective membranes, getting into cells themselves, accumulating in cells, and then hanging out and doing God knows what. We don't really know yet,
It's like that's why
whether
you're getting the IV is to it just takes care of it.
oh God. Yeah, get it to detox. An
Yeah,
IV to detox. It's
I'm gonna go get
happening.
my
Oh,
plastic IV to help me detox from my,
yeah.
long night of drinking. Wow.
Yeah, so there are studies, again, one of them, if you guys wanna we can drop this in the show
Sure,
notes, the
yeah.
rapid detection of microplastics and nanoplastics directly exposed to blood during intravenous injections. So, why opt into that if you don't have a real need? I mean, again, there's no way I would have shown up at the hospital with preeclampsia and been like, no IV drugs, thank you. I don't want the
I
microplastics.
prefer to
It's just
die
like I've
instead of
heard,
getting
yeah. It's
yeah.
like, okay, here we go. Like we're gonna just deal with this.
Mhm.
But as an elective opt-in, that's a
Right, or
different
doing it for your
assessment.
health. Like you're doing
Yeah.
and we
So
haven't done a podcast about this yet, but there are also we have a source that there are microplastics present in supplements. So I'm not saying all supplements. I mean, there's microplastics everywhere at this point. But yeah, if you have a gross example, like a large example, it is a plastic bag with plastic tubing and like we're checking out the research on this. Yeah, just like look, make some soup with vegetables in it and some nice broth and a chicken.
and if
That's the
you
move.
have if you have a severe autoimmune disorder or some
Yeah.
sort of thing happening where you're experiencing um real chronic illness, that this has a hope of alleviating some of the symptoms or even managing the disease pathology, then I think it could be a, an acceptable cost. Some
Yeah.
of these risks or the microplastics, they may not be that big of it. They're not going to be that necessarily the thing that's going to get you in the end, especially when it's like, yeah, my immune system is like breaking me apart right now. Okay, well then I'm really glad that it's available for people in that situation. But again, it's like, um, do you have a real reason that makes that risk benefit analysis worth it for you? And do you have somebody that can just help you make that analysis? Um, hopefully you might. I think so. One of the places that I want to go to before I know we're kind of getting long on time, but one of the things I just wanted to briefly bring up is some more of the ironies in terms of how we think about these, like in the wellness industry, and kind of coming back to the role of influencing in all of this,
Mhm.
and how one, like you were saying, would these same people get vaccines? Would these same people be like absolutely anxious and nerve wracked over certain things that aren't natural, and yet we're going and getting these synthetically derived nutrients and consuming them in this incredibly unnatural format. There's all these ironies in the way we think about this stuff. But what
Mhm.
I'm seeing in the online space is this kind of interesting rebranding of aesthetics into health and wellness. So
Yeah.
it's this blurring the lines between looking good versus actually being well.
Mhm.
And I worry about what that means for people in the long term when we're kind of treating the appearance of youth almost as like a biomarker. Like if you have fewer wrinkles and this treatment gives you like Botox, if it makes
Mhm.
you look younger, then we mentally are starting to think that that equates with better health
Mhm.
when it could be that the underlying physiology hasn't actually changed at all. And in fact, in a lot of cases, may be taking a hit, and you're
Mhm.
seeing it with Botox where um, gives us this appearance of health and wellness and youth and vitality. But then underneath it can cause immune dysregulation. It can change the way the lymphatic vessels in the system drain. And so you can end up with actually like long-term consequences, weaker facial muscles and impaired lymphatic drainage, immune system dysregulation, all these different issues.
Yeah, which people like we talked about this a little bit before we hit record. There are many, many groups online, like Facebook groups of people who have gotten Botox or filler, and it has caused problems with their
Mhm.
health, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And yeah, Amanda, I think it is like the med spa. Is it dermatology? Is it medical? Like I'm just thinking the dermatologist that I would go to in Boston, I've had laser treatments to get the blood vessels off of my
Mhm.
face from rosacea where they like zap you with this, it's called a V-beam laser.
Mhm.
I actually did not do my due diligence. I was just like, get these things off my face. Is this supposed to be
Mhm.
good? It's a doctor. Okay. I mean, really, I like fell into that camp and it totally worked, but they go and like shoot you with this laser. So, like, one side of the office is dermatology, it's like the medical side, and then one side is the med spa side. And the lines are blurred a little bit.
Mhm.
It's like, it's a huge conversation. What we conceive of as beauty in this culture does not always overlap with better,
Yeah.
healthier, feeling better.
Yeah.
Even down to like, I mean, I'm imagining you saw clients like this. Like I've seen clients, older women, very within weight, like very healthy weight,
Mhm.
wanting to lose more weight, especially as they got older. Maybe their weight increased like a few pounds. And it was actually like, hey, if you're like outside of a healthy limit, yeah, let's have a conversation. But like your bones need to stay dense as you get older and like your body
Uh-huh.
recomps a little bit, even if you're doing everything the way you're supposed to do it. And it's like,
'Cause that increased body weight forces the bones to increase density to
yeah,
support it,
increased
right?
densities. I mean, that is a huge part, I think, of this conversation with IVs is because like a lot of the people I see, online are like in their 20s. They're going to be beautiful regardless, but they're like getting these IVs and talking about it and
And
it's
they're
like,
pairing those IVs with all these different aesthetic treatments. It's part of the same med spa culture and
yeah,
package.
that
And
culture.
and I wanna clarify that I'm not trying to, do it like a broad scale critique of all aesthetic treatments because I understand we live in a society where there is real tangible value to looking a certain way and
Yeah.
looking younger.
Yep.
I mean, it can affect people's lives in
Your
a lot of
income.
different ways, their income,
Huge.
their
Huge.
profession,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff, especially now that we're all in the online space. And I think a lot of this, I think it's fair to want to stay healthy and look better, right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
totally understandable. But there's this trap that I think starts this kind of loop that starts where, you start by saying, okay, I'm just going to get some of this to help boost my confidence and make me feel a little bit better about myself and the way I look in the world. But then there can be this kind of dependence that develops, and then this
Mhm.
kind of constant like chasing this, it, these false ideals about what aging looks like, what wellness looks like. If
Mhm.
wellness looks like this image that is being crafted by all of these synthetic aesthetic, techniques, then how does our own sense of wellness change when we can't attain that look? Like if looking well means being healthy, our belief in our own confidence and our own wellness affects how healthy and well we actually are.
Yeah, and
I don't even
very
know if I'm getting to
interesting
the point.
conversation, especially in the, like, longevity thing that's happening right now. It's like longevity, everything, like health span versus lifespan and, like living to be 120 or, like Brian Johnson's trying to do. And I feel like in so many like conferences now, you see it's like spermidine for longevity and bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and all these things. It's like, guess what? Your DNA, it will not continue to replicate in the clean way that, in the like efficient way that it did when you were younger. And I know, I mean, you've looked into this more than I have. You will have problems with protein replication as you age, which is what causes the look of aging and the function decrease,
Mhm.
especially as those years go up. There is no biohack that is going to keep it all at bay. And so if we're all like striving for this longevity, it's like, what are we going to try to look 20 when we're 120?
Yeah.
Like, it does
Yes.
seem a little antithetical to like the goal of, the biohacker culture. It's like, you're going to have some wrinkles, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that might actually, in some cases, be, more of a sign of wellness than having this, like, synthetic
Yes.
mask. So, I
Yes.
think it's just about parsing the 2, and that the world of influencing is making this more difficult, where it's like the pursuit of aesthetics is an individual choice. It's understandable, especially for women. We
Yeah.
all have our different ways of pursuing, an appearance that we find pleasing to ourselves and hopefully to others. That is
Hmm.
totally fine, but, like, do that consciously so that you know kind of
Be aware.
what that pursuit is, and recognize that it's a different pursuit than genuine, authentic wellness and well-being.
Mhm. And there
Um,
and there may be some
there's
overlap,
some
right?
overlap
But,
there,
like,
but
just know, like, keep
yeah,
keep an eye out, I think. Like,
don't be
I think
sold that the appearance of health is the same thing as real health, and that's what the
totally
influencers
different,
are
yeah.
doing
It's
because it
totally
sells.
different. I told you before we started recording, I looked into, I mean, briefly getting a boob lift. Like, I'm like, if I never had to wear a bra again, I would be the happiest woman on earth. And one of the reasons that I haven't pursued it more is because one, it's like it would be elective. Like, I'm not in pain or, there's nothing wrong. I just like don't want to have to wear a bra anymore. But the inflammation that would come from that, the lymphatic disturbance that would come from that, I'm kind of like, I can keep wearing a bra. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I would really love to have my tits hiked up right to here. I'm kind of like, oh, do I like, but if I did it, I would go into it knowing like, okay,
This is
there's
what this is for.
this is what this is for. And there's some
There's
drawbacks.
a
Same with like
cost.
that laser. I mean, I think it's probably fine. Question mark. It wasn't an injection. I don't know. I think she just zapped these things off
That
my
seems
face. But like
pretty innocuous.
really what it was is because I was like, I'm tired of having these broken blood vessels on my face from
Yeah.
having rosacea for so long. So yeah, we're not yucking your yum, but just know that like one, they're not they're not one and the same. Yeah, and to be aware, especially I think with Botox. I mean, we could do a whole episode on Botox if people do have any type of immune dysregulation and they
Mhm.
get Botox. It seems like I haven't looked deeply into this research. I've looked just a little bit that the risk is higher for there being negative side effects from getting Botox. So okay, well, I will say this. This was what I was kind of asking about. I love the idea of IV nutrients. I love the idea of going into like a beautiful spa that somebody has made and they hook me up to these nutrients. And then like the thing though I can feel in my psyche is like I have like a little more like leeway. Like I don't have to like pay as close attention to my diet or
Mm.
like I can feel that a little. But
If
I
you're
love
doing the IV,
yeah, totally. I
right,
mean,
so it gives you some
y
margin.
it gives me some margin and also, like, I wanna look, like, hydrated and
Mhm.
I want to have nutrient sufficiency and, like, if I feel stressed out or like that. So, like, the
Mhm.
idea of it to me is really appealing, but the actuality of it, like we've discussed, it's different.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I just trust less the injection of synthetic materials into my body unless I have a really clear why.
Yeah.
And then I just wanna know that I'm working with a practitioner that really knows the chain of custody of these materials, and that I
Yeah.
have some, hopefully some kind of measurable, like, goal, that it's not recreation.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of almost how it's being treated now,
Totally.
and so I think that's where I fall on it, is really glad that it's available. I think there's clearly some benefit for different situations, different formulas, but there are costs, and we just wanna be aware of those and understand kind of what we're doing it for, and the
What we're getting
importance
into.
of trusting, the product and the practitioner.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, it's an interesting topic. It's hot right now. I'm curious
Super
to see
hot.
what people have to say about it. Oh, this is important. If you do want to get a hold of us, you can email us, influencetodeath@gmail.com. I haven't been as active on our Instagram because I joke around. We're like in the marketer's tax season right now because it's like Black Friday time. And we've just been so busy, working. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what people have to say about this. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Sweet
All
Amanda,
right.
thank you. I'm glad we get
Thank
to hang out.
you. Yeah, always fun.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.